Hello, amateurs, and welcome back to our referee review series. And I've got Matt Groves with me again today. Hi, Matt. How you doing?
Very well, thanks, Tim. How are you today?
Very well. How was your weekend of refereeing?
A bit of a mixed bag, actually. My Saturday fixture was probably the highest scoreline that I think I've ever refereed, 114-0 to the home team. So not a particularly great game to write home about. But then Sunday had a really good under-16 boys game. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Fantastic. Awesome stuff. In this episode, people, we are going to be looking at some of the refereeing decisions that happened on this weekend, the second weekend of the 2025 Six Nations. And as always, this is not an opportunity to criticize or bag referees. We're just trying to talk about the laws, talk about them with a referee to see how the referees think about certain decisions. So with that in mind, we are going to look at the first incident here. And this was the first French try, that remarkable try by BL Biarri. But somebody, Matt, had a question about that, the very start of that move.
Yeah, I had a message about that while I was watching the game, and the question was, why was that the first French player that received the ball, I think was their six, why was he not adjudged to be in an offside position when he took possession of the ball? Because given that, so the kind of build up to the try was England in possession, just inside our own half. Mitchell puts in a box kick that was actually really, really good, weighted and directional box kick. England competed for it and won possession in the air. Really good competition. Slight got up there, battered the ball back. I think the first England receiver was Ben Earl, who quite take possession of the ball, kind of fumbled it backward to Genge. Genge passed it back to nobody other than the French six. And so my buddy messaged me to, well, the ball's gone backwards 15 meters. Why was he not in an offside position? And it's basically that nothing had happened in the game that would give the French an offside line. So as soon as Mitchell picked up the ball from the ruck, then the offside lines created at that ruck no longer exist. And until something else happens where you've got a ruck started or tackle with a man over the ball or a set piece or whatever, there's no offside line. So that French six who was there waiting was in a perfectly legitimate position, took possession of the ball, and then obviously the French did what the French do, and they capitalised on the turnover and scored a magnificent try that I'm sure the French hooker is very, very relieved that they did score from after his little brain fade in the middle of the field.
Yeah. Malvaka just threw it on the floor basically halfway through that move, but Dupont rescued it. So all good in the end. Okay, The next thing we're going to look at is in the Italy-Wales game. And this is the Ange Capowozzo try as Garbisi found a hole, chipped through into the in-goal area, and Capowozzo dived through and grounded the ball in the in-goal. But there was some conversation during the commentary about whether his elbow was close to being in touch or not. But actually, for the purposes of this, the way it works, it's completely irrelevant. So would you like to explain that bit for us?
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely completely irrelevant. You're quite right, Tim. So the law covering what is in and out of touch and what is in goal, there are some interesting peculiarities with that aspect of law. And the two things that really matter is kind of where is the ball? Has it yet reached the plane of touch? Because if the ball hasn't yet reached the plane of touch, then someone who is outside of the field can play that ball. Now, Capuzzo wasn't in possession, so it's not like he was crossing the goal line in possession of the ball, diving. If that was the case, then absolutely where his right foot is and where his right elbow is very, very important because he was the ball carrier in possession. But because he was never the ball carrier in possession, neither of those things really matter. He could have been stood outside the field of play, outside touching goal, both feet on the ground, and just reached in and dotted the ball down, and that'd be absolutely fine and legitimate because he's not in possession of the ball.
Yeah, it's one of those strange ones that looks kind of wrong, but it's there in law, and the law says a try is scored when an attacking player, and this is the point E subclause here, who is in touch or touching goal, grounds the ball in the opponent's in goal, provided the player is not holding the ball. So that's what you're saying there about being in possession. As long as he just grounds it, not in possession, it counts. So it was well picked up and a very good try.
Absolutely, okay. Yeah, it was a very good score. Very good score.
Yeah.
I thought Italy played very well, actually.
Yeah, they did. They played the conditions perfectly. Okay, next one is a question from a listener, and this is from Phil Barrents. Phil didn't want to sound pedantic, but he was wondering, in terms of the new line-out laws and competing and not straight and all that kind of thing, what constitutes competing in a line-out?
Great question. So the wording from World Rugby on the law trials, and it's probably actually worth delving into what they did with some of their other communication. So they released a presentation that had a few videos in it and some FAQs that really kind of drill into this, which is their definition of what is competing is that the non-throwing team put someone up in the air. They lift someone up in the air in an attempt to compete for possession of the ball. And it's really more, I guess, about what is non-competing. So non-competing is not doing that, not making any effort to try to gain possession. And where you're not competing, that's where the throw doesn't need to be perfectly straight. Now, again, it comes down to looking at the intent of what World Rugby are trying to do with the law. They're not saying that you can just, as the hooker, stand there and throw it straight at your receiver, straight at 9, and that's okay if there's no compete. The ball still needs to be thrown straight, deliberately attempting to throw the ball straight. If it accidentally goes a little bit non-straight and it's not competed, that's the scenario that World Rugby are really focused on, in terms of we don't have to stop the game again, we can just carry on, which, and as a community level grassroots referee, that's the kind of thing that we do anyway. If the ball's not perfectly straight but there was no contest, it serves no purpose to stop the game and have a scrum. Let's play on and have a bit of continuity. The World Rugby have also clarified, though, that if the ball is thrown straight at the first man, typically a prop, say, stood on the 5 metre line, that throw's got to be straight, because you can't really compete in that kind of scenario. Likewise, if the ball goes straight over the top, which happened in the Ireland game, the ball went straight over the top, and the referee called that not straight because it was a good 2, 3, maybe even 4 meters not straight. So in those scenarios, the compete aspect doesn't really come into play. We go back to pre-law trials. Was the throw straight? Was it not straight? If it's not straight, then the opposition, the non-throwing team, will get the choice of line or scrum. Did happen in the England-France game as well, with a cheeky little underarm from the French hooker that was obviously adjudged to be just straight enough to play on.
Yeah, that one was borderline. I think it was just straight enough as well. It was closer, very close, and a beautiful throw from Malvaka.
Very cheeky, wasn't it? Yeah, very cheeky.
Ingenuity. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Okay, so that was that. The next thing we are going to look at is the new protection laws for the scrum half. And we spoke about this last week, and we're going to look specifically at around a breakdown, and even more specifically about at a maul. And the question I'm going to ask you, Matt Rose, is do you think under the previous laws that final England try to win them the game would have happened if the previous laws were still in place?
So that's a fantastic question, Tim. So without the law trials in place, and just for clarity, for anyone watching this for the first time not aware, so law trials have been brought in that mean that if you're in a maul or a ruck, you are no longer allowed to play the 9 while he is still near that ruck or that maul. And near means 1 meter. So what you used to see quite a lot was a player who would be at the side of a maul, or found their way almost pretty much round ball side, who would just be loitering, waiting for the 9 to take possession, and would then snaffle them straight away, even though it just looked completely wrong. But they were bound onto the maul legally, and therefore they could detach and snaffle the 9. And the similar thing used to happen at the ruck, less so at the ruck, but certainly at the maul. And so now World Rugby have brought in the law trial to say that the 9 has basically got this area almost of immunity from people that were involved in the maul. It's designed to just tidy things up, to have more flow, more continuity of the game, and a more entertaining game. And so, get back to your question, would the French have been able to impede Mitchell getting that ball away from the maul without the law trial in place? It's highly likely that they would have done. They'd got 3 players. I think it was one of their forward replacements, 21, who managed to get himself round. He's legitimate. He's entitled to be there. He's bound on. He wasn't swimming through. He didn't change his mind. But with the law trial in place now, he couldn't let go. He couldn't let go and play Mitchell, which meant that Mitchell could get the ball away, and then the English could do their training ground move of Daly hiding behind the kind of the blind side, and then coming through that fantastic gap to score and win the game. And wasn't it a great score?
Yeah, it was a great score. It made me very happy. It made all English fans very happy, and a lot of Irish fans as well, by all accounts.
Yeah.
And, we're obviously a fan of that law amendment, but it should be said that we were a fan of it last week, even before this brilliant England try that won the game as a result of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's what we think, folks. Would love to have your questions. Any questions about the things that we mentioned in this video? Love to have those. Anything else that happened this weekend that you'd like us to sort of talk about and dig into, let's have that as well in the comments section, where we're going to keep things very friendly. Things kicked off a little bit last week, and that's no good for anybody. So respect everybody's opinion, even if you think it's wrong, and we'll have a good time there and just get a better understanding of the laws of rugby, the game we all love. So thank you, Matt, for helping us do that. Much appreciated.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. And give this video a thumbs up, guys, while you're down there, if you don't mind. And you can subscribe there. You can watch that one next. And don't forget to get out and play.